My special guest on this Good Friday edition of Bud Hedinger Live is District 8 Republican Congressman Dan Webster, who whipped Alan Grayson to take the seat and is fresh from Washington on the congressional break. Thanks for being with us this morning, Congressman.
Hey, great to be on, Bud.
Now, let me ask you, we've been talking this morning about the latest projections that the debt ceiling is going to be hit sooner than anybody expected, and this concerns me. If this is such a dire situation as we're told it is, why in the world is Congress out on a 2-week break? Why in the world is the president campaigning out west? I mean, you guys should be in Washington.
Well, I think that's if we're going to raise the debt ceiling. If we're here, we can't. That might be a good thing.
Are you going to vote to raise it or not?
If we get the right things for it. I mean, if they were willing to repeal Obamacare, if they were willing to take some huge budget cuts, that might be worth it.
Budget cuts at what level?
Well, here's what I would think. Here, I'll give you my whole plan. My thought is we only raise the debt ceiling to fund the current budget through September 30th, which is how long it lasts, less about $25 to $50 billion so we get back the cuts they didn't give us the first time. So we take enough cash plus the money we borrow to fund the current budget, less money, so we end up getting the cuts we wanted. Then on October 1st, we fund the Ryan budget only, nothing above what the Ryan budget would be. So we take the cash and we raise the debt ceiling enough just to fund that budget, and that's all.
Do you think Paul Ryan has it right? His plan is the right plan? I mean, it's being called irresponsible. It is being called draconian. It is being called extremist by President Obama and most of the rest of the Democrats. $6 trillion in cuts over 10 years, a revamp on Medicare. We're getting the Medi-scare propaganda now that there's just going to be the end of Medicare as we know it. Medicare can't survive the way it is. Something's got to be done. Do you believe Paul Ryan's got it right, or are there things about the plan that you would change?
I believe that this, and it's just a skeleton. A budget is a skeleton. The appropriators fill in the gaps. And that's what's going to happen. Each committee will take that up. But what he has proposed is a legitimate plan, a worthy plan that turns spending down so that eventually we balance the budget and we start paying down this debt. If we don't do that, you can talk all about keeping it the way it is, but the Democrats have their head in the sand, because we will not under any circumstance have a country if we don't do what we're talking about doing.
But you know, there are folks in Congress, Tea Party conservatives mostly, who are saying we got to draw a line in the sand now. No deals. We're not raising the debt limit no matter what. How do you react to that approach?
And I know they've done that, and there are some that have said that, but most have said they would be willing to, let's say, repeal Obamacare for that, or have a balanced budget amendment for that. So most people are willing to trade something that would be significant in budget cuts, or at least policy that would cause budget cuts.
You're never going to get a deal with the President of the United States. The centerpiece of his first term here, and I hope his only term personally, is Obamacare. I mean, he would go down swinging on that. He'd fight for that. He spent a year and a half trying to get it done.
Then we'll have to operate on cash.
There's a thought. There's a thought. Let me ask you, Congressman Dan Webster joining us here in the studio. You voted for the recent budget compromise bill on the 2011 budget, the one that averted the government shutdown. And even after the Congressional Budget Office said at the last minute, wait a minute, $39 billion in cuts is what we're being told in the Boehner-Obama-Reid compromise deal, but it really only amounts to $352 million. On that basis, your colleague in Congress, fellow Republican freshman Sandy Adams, said, those aren't the cuts my constituents expect. I'm voting no. Senator Marco Rubio voted no. Congressman Dan Webster voted yes. How do you defend that vote?
Well, first of all, it is cuts. It's real spending cuts. We cut authority. It just doesn't show up for a while. When we budget things, that doesn't mean we spend money the next day. And so when it reaches over into October, that's past that year, so it doesn't do what it is. Remember, it was the Congressional Budget Office that told us Obamacare reduced the deficit. So I don't think I necessarily believe everything the CBO says.
Now they're pretty much apolitical. They're just cranking out numbers. Do you think they're incompetent?
Well, just
do you think they're incompetent?
Well, I just think they're giving a certain set of parameters and they judge things on that. Okay, what's going to happen between now and September 30th? But in the end, we took out of the base the spending authority. Over 10 years, they say it saves $313 billion. It does. It is budget cuts. And so what I think is, first of all, this is different. And I did not want to shut down government because the last time we shut it down, the military budget was already done. And so there was no pay problem with the military. The military can look online 10 days before payday, which was the 15th of the month, and see that they were going to get half their pay. And I think the members understood if we don't do something, we've got to get them paid one way or another. So people that are making $1,600 looked online and saw they're only going to get $800. And so I thought keeping the government open saved money. Paying the military was very, very important, and it did cut spending. And I believe it cut enough to where I'm satisfied that we're going to save enough money to at least finish out this year.
Congressman Dan Webster, my special guest, live in the studio. We're back with him in 1 minute talking oil and gas prices. 8:22 on the 50,000-watt front porch. An update in the middle of this rush hour on Good Friday morning of real-time traffic and weather together, always on the twos for you. We're looking at sunny and 89 today, and Saturday and Sunday for Easter weekend. Pretty much the same story. You might catch a shower here or there. We top out in the upper 80s, pretty much as good as it gets. Happy Easter, one and all. 69 degrees now here in Orlando. Back with District 8 Republican Congressman Daniel Webster live in our studio. Oil and gas prices. President Obama now says he's whipping up a task force to see whether or not there is fraud in the oil markets that is artificially spiking the price of oil and the gasoline. Basically, beyond that, he keeps telling us there's really not much he can do. What would you do that this president is not doing? Because I think his policies, or really a lack of an energy policy, has an awful lot to do with where we are, in addition to the instability in the Middle East.
For sure. There's no question about it. If I were there, I would get EPA to back off what they're doing. We can't drill inland, and there are so many reserves here, and we ought to be doing it. It's safe. It's on level ground, and it is very much the thing to do. To me, we have sacrificed that to say, okay, we're going to depend on the Middle East. So what is Iran saying? Either get rid of the sanctions or we're going to raise the cost to $150 a barrel. We're being bribed. And the reason we can be bribed is because the Obama administration has put themselves in a position to say we really don't have an energy policy. We don't want to have one. We don't have a drilling policy. And in the end, we're going to lose if we don't produce our own oil.
There's no question about it. But what about offshore drilling? The moratorium continues in the Gulf. I think that was a fluke what happened with Deepwater Horizon. It didn't turn into the huge calamity it might have been. And I am a proponent of getting back to drill, baby, drill off the coast of Florida, where we apparently have tremendous reserves. Where are you on that?
I'm for that, too.
Florida.
I'm sort of for the above.
Because it's dead in the legislature. You used to be the big guy in the Florida legislature, House Speaker, head of the Senate, and et cetera. And right now they've lost all their political will, and they're not driving anything to get drilling done in the legislature. What would you say to them today?
Well, I think I'm not going to tell them what to do, but I mean for
go ahead.
For us, you know, I believe we've got to drill. We've got to have our own oil supplies. We've got to do that.
So drilling off the coast of Florida, you would support it?
I do support it.
And in the Gulf again?
And I think it needs to be safe. I think we ought to be assured that we're going to have a safe opportunity to do it. Also, though, I don't want to minimize the fact that there's more oil onshore that we ought to be doing, and it's the EPA that stops us from drilling.
Absolutely true. I couldn't agree with you more. Congressman Dan Webster, members of Congress are always running because you have a 2-year election cycle. It's reported that you only raised $30,000 in the first quarter here. And Alan Grayson, who's making rumblings like he wants another shot at you, actually has raised more money than you, and he's not even in office. What's going on here?
Well, he wasted over $5 million last time, and it didn't work. and I certainly didn't have that much money to run on.
Are you having trouble raising money, or are you just not pursuing it?
No, I went to Congress to be a United States Congressman, not to be a fundraiser. There's a time to raise money. There's a time to engage ourselves in election, but we have got a lot of problems. I'm not looking to the next election. I'm looking to the next generation. That's what I want to do.
What's it been like in Congress, your first term around? I know your family initially was very reluctant to have you run, and without their blessing, you didn't get in the race. Then you finally did. Is everybody, from Dan Webster to the wife and the kids, happy you've done this?
Everybody's happy.
What's it like?
You know, I was in the legislature 28 years. The mechanics are the same. You still speak, you file bills, you file amendments, you talk to people, so forth. The difference is the magnitude of the budget. You add a bunch of zeros and a decimal point way over on the other side, and that's pretty much it. And then the things we vote on certainly affect more than just a district. They affect the United States of America and sometimes international.
Well, you're only several months into it, but do you have a sense, based on your experience, that you'd like another shot at it? Would you run for re-election? Do you believe now, if you had to make the decision, which you don't at this point in time, that it would be to run again?
I think it would be, yes. I plan on running again. I don't see any reason not to. I believe there's going to be an opportunity that will have a different Congress and a different president, and if that be the case, it's going to be a lot better. We control a little over a half of one of the three bodies there, and one of the three sort of votes. And so that's the House. But the Senate's divided. The president's
right.
Democrat. We're Republican. It makes it hard. If we could get our opportunity to govern as Republicans, I think we would show the public that we can get this economy rolling again.
Got to get you on record on one issue that's a hot button for my audience here on Bud Hedinger Live, Congressman Webster, illegal immigration. In the legislature right now in Tallahassee, they're going after something that is not as tough as the Arizona-style law. What is it that you would support in dealing with the illegal alien situation here?
From a federal level, I want to enforce the law we have. The reason they're called illegal aliens because they're here against our law. And the problem has been that the president has been very reluctant to prosecute people who are here illegally. We're a nation of immigrants, and people come through the front door, that's fine. But the people coming through the back door, we've got to deal with. First, seal the border, then go after the thugs, murderers, and thieves, and then work our way through a process, step by step, where we become a nation where something that is illegal is enforced. You know, they're prosecuted.
Because you got stuck in traffic, we're short of time, and I regret that. Very quickly, the 2012 Republican presidential field, I don't see a shining star yet. Is there somebody you believe has the best chance of making Barack Obama a one-term president? If so, who is it?
Well, I haven't made a pick yet. I don't see Ronald Reagan in the race yet. Maybe there is one out there. However, if I had a choice right now, I'd pick Paul Ryan.
Very interesting. Congressman Dan Webster, you're continuing on the congressional break here. Your Stop the Spigot of Spending tour. Where will you be holding upcoming town hall meetings in closing?
Well, we've already had two. We're getting ready to have a big one out in East Orange County next Tuesday, April 26th at noontime. It's going to be at the Orange County Extension Education Center at 6021 South Conway Road.
Thank you, Congressman Dan Webster. Pictures of this and video on Facebook. And there you go. And thank you so much for coming in with members of your staff. We appreciate it, and a very, very happy Easter to you, sir.
Thank you. Same to you.
Congressman